Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 1, 2, 3, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Can you pull? Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This one? We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 24, verse number 28. 3:24-28. Bahu janma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drashtum yatanti yatayaha sunyagadeshu yatpadam. Bahu janma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drashtum yatanti yatayaha drashtum yatanti yataha drashtum yatanti yatayaha sunyagadeshu yatpadam. Bahu janma vipakvena samyak yoga samadhina drashtum yatanti yatayaha sunyagadeshu yatpadam. Somebody? Bahu janma vipakvena Somebody? Bahu, many. Janma, many births. Vipakvena, which is mature. Samyak, perfect. Yoga samadhinaha, by trance, in yoga. Drashtum, to see. Yatante, they endeavor. Yatayaha, the yogis. Shunya agareshu, in a secluded place. Yat, whose? Padam, feet. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. After many births, mature yogis, by complete trance in yoga, endeavor in secluded places to see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Some important things are mentioned here about yoga. The word Bahu Janma Vipakvena means after many, many births of mature yoga practice. In other words, Samyak Yoga Samadhina means by complete practice of the yoga system. Complete practice of the yoga system means Bhakti Yoga. Unless one comes to the point of Bhakti Yoga or surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's yoga practice is not complete. The same point is corroborated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many, many births, the Jnani, who has matured in transcendental knowledge, surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kadama Muni repeats the same statement. After many, many years and many, many births of complete practice in yoga, can one see the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in a secluded place. It is not that after one practices some sitting postures, he immediately becomes perfect. One has to perform yoga a long, long time, many, many births to become mature, and the yogi has to practice in a secluded place. One cannot practice yoga in a city or in a public place and declare that he has become God simply by some exchange of dollars. This is all bogus propaganda. Those who actually yogis practice in secluded places, and after many, many births they become successful, provided they surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the completion of yoga. Omagyan Tivilanda Zyaganandana Shlakaya Chakshununitam Yina Tasmai Sri Guravin Mahab Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Siguru Siyuta Parakamalam Sigurun Vaishnavam Sha Sri Rupam Sugajatan Sahagana Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savaduta Payajana Saitam Krishna Chaitana Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Sha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kantaramosute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Suradevi Pranamami Haripre Avansha Kalpatru Vesha Paritanam Pavanebi Vaishnavi Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. So, first thing Prabhupada's mentioned here in his purport, the fact that after many, many births of mature yoga practice, in another word, he says, Samyak Yoga Samadhina means by complete practice of yoga. So that is to be done. If somebody is a yogi, then he has to practice yoga system, Ashtanga yoga system, very carefully, and it has to be complete, like Prabhupada said here. Samyak Yoga Samadhina means by complete practice of yoga system. Otherwise, it is all shrama eva kevalam. It is a waste. In bhakti, it is very different, because bhakti is about love. And even if love is incomplete, this is still accepted by Krishna. Yoga is all in out. Either you make it or you don't. You're in or you're out. That's it, you know. But in bhakti, every little, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that Nehabhikramanashusti pratyana vidyate swalpamapyasa dharmasya trayate. Even a little progress on this path can save a man from the greatest type of fear. Example may be given that a father, when his son brings him 2 left shoes, or grandfather, the grandfather or father will be very pleased. In fact, he will be as much pleased if he brings him 2 left shoes, 2 right shoes, or 1 right shoe and 1 left shoe. It is irrelevant almost to the father, because what he sees is the love. The love, that somebody gives him something in love. If somebody offers me in love and devotion, like Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Palamtriyam, Yomi Bhaktya Prayachati, in love and devotion, that is an ingredient of everything, of all our practice. Ultimately, the masala, like if you make some preparation, there has to be some, in the end the expert cookie puts some masala into it. As a sabji is really so strong that your hair is standing on end and you start sweating, right? That's the masala. So in the same way, that what makes the whole thing go is actually the ingredient of love. Ingredient of love. If that's there, then Krishna will accept it. Otherwise, he won't accept. like sometimes one devotee, they were discussing this verse, but if somebody offers me love, so one devotee lifted up his finger and said, Prabhupada, I don't know how to do that. Can I offer Krishna also my bhoga in the mind? And Prabhupada said, yes, but then you have to eat in the mind. If you want to offer in your mind, you should eat in your mind. Because that element of love is completely missing. Even if there's a little attempt. Like the whole Varnashrama, what is that verse? Tapumi Dvira Shesta Varnashrami Bhagasasvanusita Siddharmasya Samsiri Hari Tushanam. To please God is the whole basic, the keystone. Like when you have a building, an arch, there has to be a keystone that holds the whole arch together. If you build arches, anybody who builds arches, he knows that there has to be a keystone. Very important. The keystone of all our endeavor in bhakti is love. That's the thing. And love is not easy. It is in us. By nature, it is inherent in the soul, is love for Krishna. But we are so absorbed in metta, stone-hearted, practically speaking, that our love for Krishna is very reduced, is very small. We love, somebody saying, there's prasadam, oh Krishna, thank you, we love you. But as far as the daily work is concerned, we are less enthusiastic. We are fruitive in our attempts or in our relationship to Krishna. There's a lot of fruitivity there. That we do this because, in the extreme, somebody goes in front of the deity and cries, and my dear Lord, please give me a house by the sea and a color TV, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So that's a prayer, but it is completely materially motivated. He doesn't care for Krishna, really. He wants to extract some favor from Krishna, namely a house by the sea, color TV, or whatever people pray for, green card. A very famous prayer. A lot of people, they want to go to America. Please, Lord, give me a green card. Or let me pass my exams. I remember when I was a young boy, I had difficulties passing my exams, so I went to a little church in the forest and prayed to Mother Mary. And I said, please let me pass the exams. And it worked. It worked. And I said, then I will go 6 weeks to church. Now, when it came to that, I went 1 day, 2 days, and then gradually I slackened up. Next year, I had the same problem. Again, I went to the same church and prayed to Mother Mary. And again, she helped me. And again, after my vow, slackened, right? And third year, I went and she didn't help me anymore. I said, forget it. You have been here 3 years praying to me, and always you make these promises, but by the end of the day, you don't do what you promised. You crash your exam, and I crashed it. Big time. So people pray for some benefit, that I have this and that. Please give me. This is a mentality in the material world. Give me. The give me mentality. Give. I want to have something from Krishna. And I want to be first. Aham Purva. This Aham Purva comes from the who distributes the nectar? Moti. And all the demigods, the demons are saying, me first, Aham Purva. And that's the mentality in the material world, me first. Big industrialists, they think of themselves first. They don't think of the benefit of the world. They want to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and become really big. And just when they're really big, then Krishna makes them bow down. Because when we die, everybody has to bow down. If they don't bow down before, when death comes, even the biggest atheist, the biggest demon, he has to bow down in front of God. There's no doubt about it. So this mentality of give me is very prominent. And why do people practice yoga anyway? Because they want to become big yogis, they want to have some mystic powers, they want to be famous, and so many things, so many yoga societies. in Western countries, what is it all about? To have strong muscles, to look very beautiful, to attract a partner, and all these things. There is no notion of spirituality, hardly any notion of spirituality there. What to speak of the most ingredient element that actually carries a person out of the material world, namely to become reinstated in his relationship of love. Because that's what we left in the spiritual world. We are there because, not because, in the spiritual world, the work, the modus vivendi, as a lifestyle, is to love Krishna. But then when there is a slight influence of materialism, then this love deteriorates to lust. It's just like when we cook some milk, and then somebody comes, a little boy throws a little bit of lemon in it. Mother wanted milk, but the little boy put a little bit of lemon in it, and immediately you have whey on one side, and you have the paneer on the other side. And people want, this is how you make paneer. We all know paneer is very tasty. Somebody told me, one Calcutta businessman, the last words when he died was paneer. His next life, he became paneer, maybe. So the actual ingredient is love. And love, which means religion really, in the true sense, in the pure sense, to reconnect with God in love, becomes very easily, deteriorated or altered in its purity by lust, love for money and love for fame. This is the two enemies of religion. This says lust is money, desire for money and power destroys every religion in the world. These two things. We see many, even in my lifetime, I've seen people starting very wonderfully in Krishna consciousness, and then gradually these two elements came in of money and power, and the whole thing deteriorates ultimately. This is how that works, that these are the ingredients. If there's no love, then it is lust. And what lust brings about is lust for money, lust for power, lust for fame, lust for this. That's what destroys it. And so how to come to this love? I mean, in Christianity we say you should love your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. This is perfect. Yes, that is what we should do. But how to do that? How to actually come to this point of loving Krishna with all our heart, soul, mind. Srila Rupa Goswami gives us a whole, a whole school how to come to the platform of love. Very precisely described, step for step. Adu Shraddha. In the beginning, was a little faith. When we come to the temple, first time, we have a little faith, we are sure we will come out of the temple in one piece. We're not worried. We're not going to be cooked. So there's a little faith, adu shraddha sadhu sangha, and we associate with devotees. And by such association, then what we do, bhajana kriya. We worship, there's worship there, there's chanting there, there's hearing there. And kriya means devotional activities. Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, etc. These elements. What does it do? These things actually destroy the anarthas. Anartha means art, means something which is favorable. Anartha means which is unfavorable elements. Anartha nivritti. Then comes ruchi. And then from ruchi, taste, we're getting a taste for it. Then there comes nishta, firm faith. So in the beginning there's a little faith, and kanishta adhikaris, they have some little faith. That's why they go to church. Little faith is there. But to come to nishta, firm faith, that requires some steps in between, to come to that platform. You know, nothing is done in one step. Just like, for example, if I steal your money, I live in your house as a guest and I steal some money, and then I leave, and after some time I see you again that I stole the money from, and he said, what about the money? He said, let's forget about it, it's a past. It's all one anyway. Nothing is mine. Everything is Krishna's property. So what are you worried about? It's a past. Let's not talk about the past. Let's sing and dance together in kirtan. He said, well, that's nice. I appreciate it. But first, put that money on the table. You know, there's some steps missing. First, you have to recognize that you make a mistake. First step. In all wrongdoings. Second of all, you have to feel sorry for it. And you have to express your sorry. To this person. I'm very sorry that then you have to repair the damage. You have to give the money back, right? Otherwise there's no chanting Haribol, Haribol. It can't happen. You have to give the money back. And then we can sing and dance in kirtan. So you can't leave out these steps in between, you know? No, it's important to feel remorseful if you do something wrong, that you feel this was very wrong. You express your remorsefulness. And then gradually, from there, remorsefulness, and then you repair the damage. And so in the same way, it's easy to say, well, we all love God. I remember I told one person, when I gradually turned to Krishna consciousness, I explained to him the essential agreement to get out of the material world is to love God. That's the most important thing. And he was a Christian. He said, of course, we all know that. That's everybody knows that. That's nothing new. But you know, it is not realized. You know, it's in a very immature stage. It's a concept. It's just a concept to love God for most people. They know, yes, we should love God, but what does it mean? It's just a concept, just like old age. I mean, for the last, say, 50 or something years, old age was for me a concept. Right? I say, yes, old age, yes, birth, old age, disease, and death. But what does it mean? Once you get into 70, you realize what it is all about. Right? What is it all about? You realize old age is coming into you. You cannot deny it. Right? So in the same way, maybe people talk about love of God, and they will tell you, well, that's nothing new. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. But what does it mean? What does it mean in practice? That takes some time to go from nishta, from shraddha to nishta, firm faith. There's some steps in between, namely, ado shraddha to sadhu sangha to bhajana kriya, and then anatta nivriti, and then ruchi, and then there's nishta. And then from there we gradually proceed to bhava, and from there we proceed to prema, full love of God. It's a process. You know, it's a process, a gradual process to wean ourselves off material association. It does not happen in one day, unless we are Kripa Siddhis. Krishna can give us perfection like this. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya, he would just embrace somebody, and the guy would, he would run into the next village. And everybody became infused with love of God. That's possible. But that's not the general way. You can get your PhD, maybe you get a PhD honoris causa. Do they call it honoris causa? You know, out of honor. You know, you visit Uganda and receive from the Prime Minister, because your good work in charity, he gives you a PhD honoris causa. Honoris means honor, cause means cause because of honor. But in general, you have to go MA, BA, and all the way to doctorate work, and then ultimately you make a PhD. That's what it takes. Everybody knows that. So in the same way, in the process of spiritual life, there's a process there. And I have not seen in any of the world religions that I studied in college any process that shows us even the basic thing, who are we? That we are soul. You don't find it in Western religiosity. A clear, defined concept of soul. A clear understanding where we are coming from, namely from the spiritual world, in the ultimate analysis. A clear analysis where we're going to, what is the spiritual world. People may say heaven, but heaven means many things. There are even many heavenly planets in this universe. What to speak, the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha world, and beyond that, Goloka. So there is no deep understanding when people practice yoga, they don't have a high degree of self-realization. They may be very perfect in yoga, they may attain some mystic powers, but they don't understand that what this whole life is about, or lives are about, is to come to the point of loving Krishna. Prabhupada said you can practice for thousands of years otherwise, to come to the point of loving Krishna. And for that love we have to ask, we have to beg. By purification, Krishna sees our endeavor, and then gradually he manifests himself. And due to that type of association, when we taste Krishna, by hearing, by chanting, or even visually, then we cannot help but to love Krishna when we see his beauty. Just like when you see a very beautiful person, it's not difficult to love. Or when you see a beautiful cake, beautiful pizza, you develop love for the pizza immediately because it's very beautiful, it smells very nicely. There's some experience there by smelling, by the eyes, by sense perception, and then what to speak of taste, by taking a taste. In the end, you cannot stop eating pizza, right? Because you have an experience. That's very important, the experience. At least with pizza, it's the case. If you eat mungfali with salt, in the beginning it is very tasty, and you eat more and more, and we become more and more frustrated, actually. Eating is fact. If you eat mungfali, the more we eat, the more frustrated you become, ultimately. And then you throw the pack away, you can't take it anymore, right? So with Krishna, it's very different. That the more we are able to actually get a taste for Krishna, the more this taste is increasing. And it's unlimited. Unlimited. That Rupa Goswami said, if I would have thousands of tongues. Materialists, he will think, well, I appreciate 1,000. I would like to have thousands of tongues. I could eat thousands of preparations at the same time. But that is not what Rupa Goswami is talking about. Thousands of tongues to glorify Krishna, because it is so sweet, I cannot describe. I cannot describe. We can only hear from Scripture by hearing the examples of great sages like Srila Rupa Goswami in this case. So the yoga process itself doesn't do that. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yoginam api sarvesham. Of all the yogis, he's the best, who always worships me in great faith. He's the greatest of all. That's the verse in the Bhagavad Gita. You have that verse for me? It's 5:29, I think, right? Yoginam api sarvesham matkatanantaratmana svashatam padate yomam yome yuktatamomataha. Yes? How come it takes so long? There. Yoginam api sarvesham matkatanantaratmana svadavan bhajati yomam samayuktatamomataha. All yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me with himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He's the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So that's far away from practicing Ashtanga yoga. It's far away. It may be that people, by practicing yoga, they become a little purified, and so they're drawn to the Krishna movement. There's some devotees who come from yoga, but that's very rare. Mostly they're Mayavad. They don't believe in a supreme person, in the element of love and devotion. They don't believe that. In fact, most mundane religionists who go to church are better because they have some concept of that we should love God. But it is not realized. It's on the Kanishta platform. So that is what Prabhupada said here, that the important thing mentioned about yoga is that yoga in itself is not complete. If, Prabhupada says, once yoga prayer is not complete, same point is corroborated in Bhagavad Gita, bahunam janmanam ante, jnanamam prapadyati, that after many, many births, he comes to this conclusion, that Vasudeva Savamiti, that Krishna is everything, and that we should turn to him in love and devotion, which is the way how in the spiritual world everybody relates to Krishna. It is nothing, love and devotion is nothing but the lifestyle of the spiritual world. That's what people do. That's a lifestyle, everybody. The gopis, yesterday we were reading in the evening to this class, to our householder community, that the gopis in Vrindavan, they're performing quite ordinary activities, like milking cows and making butter and churning the yogurt and minding the cows and building houses and all these things. This is what everybody else is doing. No difference. But the difference is that their mind is always with Krishna. That I do this for Krishna, I do that for Krishna. I make butter for Krishna, I make yogurt for Krishna. I sing for Krishna, I dance for Krishna. I offer my food for Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey, like this famous song is. That's the consciousness. The consciousness is directed towards Krishna. They're Krishna conscious. Activities may be the same. And just like yesterday, this verse we had, let me just look it up. It's just such a perfect verse in this regard. Give me one moment. Cruel. And it is tavat ragada yastenas, tavat kara griham, tavan moho gri nigado yavat Krishna nati janaha. The verse is, great verse. My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, so whatever you do in the material world, until you're a devotee, until this point has been reached that you're a devotee, their material attachments and desires are like thieves, like the mind and the senses. They're like thieves. You can see this very clearly when you start chanting and the mind is coming. You start stealing your attention. The senses come. You know, how much time we have lost in our life due to the thiefdom of the mind and the senses. I mean, make the math, everybody for himself. How much time is wasted because the senses and the mind carry us away. Even if you want to focus on Krishna, the mind is running all over the place. He's stealing your time away. You want to perform a life in devotion, but it's these thieves, they're like thieves. They come. They don't take your goods, they take your time, mind and the senses. Right? Everybody agrees? Right? Okay. So the mind and desires remain like thieves. The home remains a prison. It may look very beautiful, but it's a prison, actually, for the soul. Until one is a devotee. And I will give the purport for that. And affectionate feelings, even for family members and children, remain like foot shackles. They keep you in the material world. But if one is a devotee, then the mind and senses become useful. Instead of being thieves, you I think of Krishna, I meditate on Krishna, I read about Krishna, I hear about Krishna. It breaks the fangs of the snake. Right? It's not any more dangerous. So in fact it becomes useful. The mind and the senses become very useful in Krishna consciousness. And so in the same way, they're not anymore thieves. They're actually contributors. They contribute to our life instead of stealing. The same senses, the same mind, if directed towards Krishna, is contributing to our spiritual life. If not, it is robbing from our spiritual life. The home is a prison. But if it is connected with Krishna, it becomes a temple. It becomes a temple. Whether one lives as a sannyasi, whether one lives as a householder, whether one lives as a Maya. If it's for Krishna, one ashram is as good as the other. Whatever suits you the best. Right? Whatever suits you the best. But the point is, if it's directed to Krishna, if a home is used. I remember I visited one fellow in Delhi, Mr. What was his name? Anyway, he sold us this property in Vrindavan. He was a pain. The guy was a pain from the beginning to the end. He divided the property into little pieces, and every time the piece went up, the next piece went up, the next piece was up. So one time I visited him, Mr. Krishna Kumar. He's not a devotee, you know, very wealthy, silver walla. And so I visited him, and the whole house was a palace. The floor was made of 8 by 4 foot pieces of white marble. It means imported from Italy, the most expensive. You can imagine that. There's no crack in it. It's white marble, pure white, you know, 8 foot by 4 foot, as big as you get it, all shipped in. So I said, "You have a wonderful house." He said, it is not my house, it is your house," he said to me. He said, "Actually, it's Krishna's house." He said, "Everything here is for Krishna." So then I went and saw the altar tacked away, and Krishna was standing on plywood. The deities were standing on plywood. So it was not Krishna's house, it was his house, right? I was shocked to see that the deity, small deities, they were standing on plywood. You see? So if the house is there for gathering, the devotees can sing together, associate together, eat prasadam together, and there's a temple, there's a beautiful deity there, and there's some puja there and some singing, and the house is not a prison anymore. It becomes a source of pleasure, spiritual pleasure, and the source of salvation ultimately. Very useful. In the same way, where was this verse? Here. And what is it? And the affectionate feelings for family members wearing foot shackles. Like yesterday I pointed out, if we raise children for Krishna, that's the greatest bhakta program in the world. That's the greatest bhakta program. And if we establish a safe Krishna conscious family, well, that's a building block of society. It's a family. Very important. And any society where the family tradition is destroyed is finished. It starts with the family tradition. So all these things become very valuable if used in Krishna. And Prabhupada gives the example. If you have a clock, every single screw is important. If you take one screw out, and it may lie in the street, that screw is worthless because it is not connected to the clock, to the watch, right? If you find it, you put it back, the watch starts working again. So that's what connects us with Krishna, is this element of love. You know, that we do things in connection with Krishna. And this verse is perfect. And then the purport of Srila Prabhupada is thrilling. In the purport he said, apparently the residents of Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Krishna, are simple householders engaged in ordinary affairs, such as herding cows, cooking, rearing children, and performing religious duties. However, all these activities are intensely engaged in the service of the Lord. The residents of Vrindavan perform all activities in Krishna consciousness, and thus they exist on the most exalted platform of liberated life. That's what it is. The activity may be the same. This person has a house, that person has a house. This person eats, that person eats. But one activity is on the liberated platform, the other activity is simply bondage. and leads to bondage. You see? Then Prabhupada says, one should never understand the exalted position of Vrindavan, nor should one consider oneself highly religious simply by performing ordinary domestic affairs, very enthusiastically, but without Krishna. Without Krishna. If there is no Krishna, then whole life is Shrama Eva He Kevalam. It is a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. And you see people are coming and going. We were discussing one famous personality the other day. Very famous man, hugely successful. And with 25, everybody wanted to be like him. He was the superstar of the youth in the 60s. And then one day he was killed. He was actually murdered. And his whole life was wasted. Every single bit was wasted. And now he's in samsara. And God knows where he is right now. He didn't get anything. He didn't. And there are so many people like this. They go through life and become famous, very well to do, enormously rich. But by the end of the day, what is it? It turns to nothing at the time of death. So then Prabhupada says, by focusing our attachments on family and society, we tend to become completely deviated from the progressive path of Krishna consciousness. On the other side, if we engage our family in the loving service of the Lord, our endeavors to maintain our family become part and parcel of our progressive duties in spiritual life. They just become spiritualized, whatever it is. You know, it's a big difference. You work for Krishna, you work for money. Prabhupada said if somebody knows how to make money, he says he should make a lot of money and use this money in Krishna's service. He said, make of dollars, he said, make millions of dollars and give it in Krishna's service. Use just the basics. In conclusion, Prabhupada says, I love this purport. In conclusion, by studying the extraordinary status of the residents of Vrindavan, that's what we have to do. We just have to study the lifestyle of people who are on that platform. You know, I mean, just like sometimes there is some question, shall we do this or that? And the best question is always to ask, what would Prabhupada say to that? What would be his idea? You know? And many times you get the immediate answer, this is not what Prabhupada wanted. It's just some foolish modern idea. You know? So, the rendering of loving service to the Lord without a trace of material desire and mental speculation is the goal of life. Such loving service to the Lord immediately creates the atmosphere of Sri Vrindavan Dham, the kingdom of God. So the ingredient, that what makes it different from any other activity in the world is simply love. That's what it is. And that love is something we have to grow like a plant. The seed is put. And then from there, gradually, by Lord Chaitanya gives this example, by watering the bhakti lata, gradually, the lata grows and ultimately it will penetrate the shells of the universe and take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay, so let me see if I forgot something, what Prabhupada said here. So not after sitting in sitting postures can one become perfect. It takes many, many births to become mature, and it takes time to become a yogi. It is not that one becomes a yogi by bogus propaganda. Those who actually practice yoga in a secluded place become successful only if ultimately they turn to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premananda Hari Bol. Do you have any question? Otherwise we are late. We leave it. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Ram Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premananda.
Hare Krishna. Let's express our gratitude to His Grace Prithu Prabhu for this wonderful sharing of his about this Srimad Bhagavatam verse today's by chanting Hare Krishna mantra once. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now at 10:30 onwards, or we can start for the Gundicha Marjanam, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally did the cleaning of the Gundicha temple, showing us that how we should be eager to clean the temple as well as our heart. So devotees who are interested can let us know, so that we'll allot different spaces and make arrangement for the cleaning materials. Hare Krishna.